Selves, you see, there's something today that's completely misunderstood. Selves, we live in a culture that keeps telling men to try harder, prove your worth, chase what you want. But that's not strength. That's desperation disguised as devotion. Selves. A masculine man doesn't chase. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't try to convince anyone to see his value. Selves. He knows that his value is not up for debate. He is grounded in his energy, rooted in his purpose, and unshaken by anyone's temporary interest. Selves. He understands something most people never learn, that love built on the foundation of chasing is not love, it's obsession, control, selves, and insecurity wrapped in a beautiful illusion. When a man starts chasing something that is not reciprocating, he loses his center. He starts doubting himself. Selves. He starts thinking that maybe if he said it differently, if he looked a certain way, if he tried a little harder, she would finally see him. But in that moment, selves, he's already given away his power. Because the moment you start running after something or someone who keeps walking away, selves, you're not chasing love, you're chasing validation. And validation is a hunger that never ends. It keeps you running in circles, always trying to prove, selves, always trying to please, and always losing yourself in the process. Masculine energy doesn't chase because it doesn't need to. Selves, it attracts through stillness. It's not loud, it's not desperate, and it's not reactive. When you are truly grounded as a man, selves, your silence speaks louder than your pursuit ever could. Your calm presence becomes magnetic. Selves, people start to feel your strength without you having to announce it. You stop being the one who runs behind, and instead, selves, you become the one who is worth following. The problem is, too many men today have been convinced that chasing is romantic, that persistence means love, selves, that endurance means devotion. But persistence in the wrong direction is not strength, it's self-destruction, selves. There is nothing noble about trying to convince someone to choose you. A man who truly values himself never stays where he is not valued. Selves. When a woman plays games, when she manipulates your emotions, when she pushes you away just to pull you back, selves, she's not testing your love, she's exposing her toxicity. A woman like that doesn't want a partner, she wants control. Selves, she thrives on emotional chaos because it feeds her ego, and that's where a man has to draw the line. You don't fight for peace. Selves, you walk away to protect it. The moment you stop engaging, the power dynamic shifts. When you disappear, you remove her fuel. You stop feeding the drama. Selves, you stop giving her the attention she uses to feel powerful. And that's when she realizes the man she thought she could play has boundaries. Selves, the man she thought she could break, she only made stronger. Disappearing is not weakness, it's self-respect. It's a declaration that says, selves, I choose myself over your games. It's not running away, it's walking towards something higher, your purpose, your growth, your peace. Because every time you chase someone who doesn't value you, you delay your own greatness. But every time you choose silence, focus, and discipline, selves, you become untouchable. The masculine man doesn't chase because he knows who he is. He doesn't need to be seen to exist. Selves, he doesn't need validation to feel worthy. He becomes so focused on his path that those who once ignored him start wondering where he went. Selves, that's the beauty of disappearing. It's not about revenge, it's about evolution. When you disappear, you transform, you become better, calmer, selves, stronger. And that's when the world realizes you never needed to chase. Selves, you only needed to remember who you are. When a man starts chasing something that isn't reciprocating, he loses his power. Selves, he steps out of his masculine frame and into a position of weakness. He begins to operate from a place of lack, constantly trying to prove his worth. Selves, hoping for validation from someone who doesn't see him clearly. And that's the moment he forgets who he is. Because a man's power doesn't come from how hard he chases, it comes from how firmly he stands. Selves, masculine energy is rooted in presence, in knowing that you don't need to run after what's meant for you. Selves, you simply need to stay aligned with your purpose, and what's meant for you will align too. When a woman doesn't reciprocate your energy, selves, that's your sign to stop, not to chase harder. But men today have been conditioned to do the opposite. They've been taught that effort always equals reward. selves. That if you just keep proving, keep showing, keep fighting, she'll finally see your worth. But that's a trap, selves. Because love isn't something you earn through exhaustion. It's something you receive through mutual respect, selves. If you have to beg someone to see your value, you've already stepped out of your masculine energy, selves. You've become dependent on their validation to feel enough, and that is the greatest weakness a man can have. Selves, a man who knows his worth doesn't chase. He observes, he reads the energy, he watches actions, not words. And if he senses games, manipulation, consistency, he steps back. He protects his peace before he protects anyone else's feelings, because peace is sacred. Once you lose it, selves, it's hard to get it back. A man who values his energy knows that attention is currency. The more you give it to the wrong person, themselves, the more you bankrupt yourself emotionally. You start pouring into someone who only takes, never leaves you drained. Let me tell you something, selves. A woman who constantly pulls away, creates drama, or plays emotional games isn't testing your love. She's revealing her own wounds, selves. Toxic women seek power through control. They feed on emotional reactions because it gives them a false sense of importance. When you react, they feel validated, selves. When you chase, they feel superior. And that's why they'll keep pushing your buttons, because your attention fuels them. But when a man stops reacting, changes. The moment you choose silence over argument, detachment over desperation, she loses her grip, selves. Because you can't manipulate a man who no longer needs your approval. You can't control someone who isn't afraid to walk away. That's real strength, not loud, not aggressive, but calm, silent, and unshakable. When you stop engaging in toxic patterns, selves, you reclaim your masculine power. Disappearing doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop wasting your care on someone who doesn't deserve it, selves. It means you redirect that energy back into yourself, your goals, your discipline, your growth. Selves. Every time you walk away from a situation that doesn't honor you, you're not losing something. You're preserving your worth, selves. The man who disappears doesn't vanish out of weakness. He disappears out of strength because he knows that silence is the loudest statement he can make, selves. And here's the truth. When you pull back, the world notices. When you stop chasing, they start wondering. When you stop explaining, they start listening, selves. That's the paradox of masculine energy. The less you try to prove, the more powerful you become. The more you detach from the need to be chosen, selves, the more naturally you attract what's aligned with your true self. So stop chasing what doesn't chase you. Stop fighting for what's not fighting for you, selves. When you sense inconsistency, don't argue, disappear, because real men don't lose themselves trying to be understood, selves. They understand themselves so deeply that they never have to explain their worth to anyone again. You see, selves, there are two kinds of women a man will encounter in his life. The first is the one who brings peace, the woman who adds calmness to your chaos, selves, who sees your effort without you needing to announce it. She makes you feel seen without demanding that you prove yourself, selves. She inspires growth simply by being present. Her energy is stable, nurturing, and secure. She doesn't need to play games because her value speaks for itself. Selves, with her, love feels effortless. There's no competition, no confusion, no chasing, just a quiet selves, powerful understanding that both people are choosing each other every day. And then there's the other kind, the one who thrives on control, selves, who needs constant attention to feel relevant. She doesn't want peace, she wants power. She feeds on the chaos she creates, mistaking it for passion. Selves, she'll pull you close just to push you away again. She'll ignore your kindness, test your patience, and punish your silence. Selves, not because she loves you, but because she needs to feel desired, even if it means destroying the connection in the process. Selves. These are the women who mistake manipulation for femininity. They believe that the only way to feel powerful is by keeping a man uncertain. Selves, by keeping him chasing. The toxic woman doesn't seek love. She seeks control. She's addicted to attention, to validation, to the feeling of being wanted. Selves, the more you give, the less she values it because her ego feeds on scarcity. She wants what she can't have and loses interest in what she does. selves. And this is where most men lose themselves, trying to love someone who is emotionally unavailable, hoping that consistency will heal chaos, selves. But here's the truth: no amount of effort can fix someone who's addicted to dysfunction. The more you chase selves, the more you teach her that she can disrespect you and you'll still stay. When you meet this kind of woman, selves, the worst thing you can do is keep proving your love, because she doesn't see love the way you do. To her, the more you try, the weaker you look. The more attention you give, the less she respects you. She doesn't crave love, she craves control. And once she realizes she has power over you, selves, she'll keep pushing until you break, not because she hates you, but because her validation depends on your reaction. Selves, that's the twisted truth of toxic dynamics. They survive only if you keep feeding them. But a man grounded in his masculine energy doesn't play that game. Selves, he knows that silence is more powerful than words and distance is stronger than confrontation. When he senses manipulation, he doesn't fight, he detaches. Selves, he knows that his attention is valuable and he doesn't spend it where it's not respected. The masculine man doesn't respond to emotional bait. Self, he doesn't argue with immaturity. He simply disappears, not as an act of revenge, but as a statement of self-respect. When you walk away from a toxic woman, selves, you're not losing something, you're freeing yourself. You're teaching her that your peace is not negotiable. Selves, you're reminding yourself that you deserve reciprocity, not resistance. And here's the irony: once you disappear, she'll come looking. Selves, because toxic people crave the very thing they destroy: stability. But by then it's too late. You'll have outgrown the game she tried to trap you in. Selves, that's the difference between the two kinds of women. One helps you build, the other drains what you've built. One values your effort, selves. The other tests it until you collapse. And you, as a man, must know which one you're dealing with. The moment you recognize toxicity, choose silence. Selves. Choose yourself, because a real man doesn't chase chaos, he protects his energy. And the moment he learns that, since he becomes unstoppable, you see disappearing is not weakness, it's not avoidance, it's power, quiet, disciplined, self-assured power, selves. When a man disappears, he's not running away from someone, he's returning to himself, selves. He's reclaiming all the energy he once poured into people who didn't appreciate it. He's choosing solitude over confusion, focus over frustration, selves, and peace over validation. Most people won't understand that kind of silence because they've never experienced what it means to be comfortable alone, selves. But for a man who has learned the value of his presence, disappearing is not about hiding, it's about healing, selves. When you walk away from a situation that drains you, you're teaching the world how to treat you. You're saying, my energy is not for sale. Sir, my time is not a bargaining chip. My peace is not negotiable. That's not ego. That's self-respect. Selves. The man who knows his worth doesn't waste time explaining it. Selves. He doesn't beg anyone to recognize his value because he understands that validation is temporary, but self-worth is permanent. When you start to realize that themselves, your silence becomes your loudest response. You stop reacting, you stop chasing, you stop proving. Because the moment you disappear, self, you shift the power back to yourself. The truth is, toxic people can't survive in silence. They need reaction to feel alive, selves. They need chaos to feel important. They feed on emotional energy, your frustration, your attention, your anger. That's why they push your buttons, selves, why they test your limits, why they play games. But when you stop reacting, they starve. When you go silent, their power dies, selves. That's why disappearing is the strongest move you can make, because it breaks the pattern. It ends the cycle. It tells them, without saying a word, selves, you no longer have access to me. Disappearing doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for people who never tried to stop your pain. Selves, it's the act of pulling your energy back and investing it where it belongs, into your goals, your growth, your peace. Selves. The masculine man doesn't chase love that's inconsistent. He doesn't fight for attention. He doesn't beg for loyalty. Selves. He simply walks away and rebuilds himself in silence. Because when a man disappears to focus on his purpose, he becomes a force that no one can ignore. You see, selves, when you disappear, you give yourself the space to reset. You start to see things clearly, the manipulation, the games, selves, the fake affection you once mistook for love. Distance exposes truth. When you step back, you see who was real and who was just pretending themselves. That's the beauty of silence. It reveals everything. It shows you who calls when you stop reaching out, who respects your absence, selves, and who only valued your presence because it served them, selves. And here's the beautiful irony. The same people who took your energy for granted will feel your absence the most, selves, because silence echoes louder than words ever could. When you disappear, they're forced to sit with the emptiness they created, selves. They start to realize that peace feels boring without your presence. But by then, you're no longer the same man they once knew. You've evolved, selves. You've leveled up. You've learned that your energy is sacred and that not everyone deserves access to it. So understand this, selves. Disappearing is not punishment, it's protection. It's how you guard your peace and preserve your strength, selves. It's how you remind yourself that you don't need to fight to be seen and you don't need to chase to be valued, selves. The man who disappears is the man who understands his worth. He knows that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all, selves, because silence is not emptiness, it's elevation. And when you learn to master that, no one can manipulate your peace again. So when something feels forced, when someone plays games, when your intuition tells you it's time to go, disappear, not in anger, not in bitterness, selves, but in power. Let your silence speak for you. Let your peace become your boundary, because real men don't chase validation. They protect their energy, selves, disappear from what drains them, and rise stronger than ever. When you walk away from something that doesn't value you, selves, you're not being cold, you're being conscious. You're making a decision that most people are too afraid to make, selves. Because walking away isn't about giving up, it's about understanding your worth so deeply that you refuse to be part of anything that diminishes it, selves. The world glorifies chasing, pleading, proving. But that's not love, that's ego trying to win validation. True strength lies in walking away with dignity, selves, not in staying and trying to convince someone to treat you right. When a man chooses to walk away, he's not rejecting love, he's rejecting chaos. Selves, he's saying, I'm not going to lose myself trying to earn something that was supposed to be mutual. That's not pride, it's maturity, selves. Because love that's built on peace will never require you to lose your self-respect to keep it. Every time you choose yourself over someone who drains you, selves, you take a step closer to becoming the man you were meant to be, selves. You start to understand that your silence is more powerful than your presence in the wrong place. You see, selves, walking away from toxic people is not a loss, it's liberation. You're freeing yourself from someone else's control, selves. You're choosing clarity over confusion, peace over performance. And the truth is, the moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop defending yourself, selves, you take your power back, because silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you've realized some people aren't worth the noise. Selves. That's when you stop chasing understanding and start living in acceptance. You accept that not everyone deserves access to your energy, selves. You accept that not every connection is meant to last. And you accept that peace is more valuable than being right, selves. Most men stay in draining relationships because they think walking away makes them look heartless. But it's actually the opposite. Selves. Walking away is an act of love for yourself. It's the moment you decide that you're done trying to heal people who enjoy being broken. Selves. It's when you understand that no matter how much you give, you can't pour into someone who keeps poking holes in your cup. Selves. There comes a point where you stop trying to convince others to see your worth and instead focus on living in a way that reflects it. That's when you grow, selves. That's when you evolve. And let me tell you this, when you disappear from toxicity, you rise. You start to attract better energy, better people, selves, and better opportunities, because the universe always matches your vibration. When you settle for chaos, you invite more of it. But when you choose peace, Peace. The man who disappears doesn't lose anything, he gains everything: clarity, purpose, direction, strength. Selves. When you walk away from manipulation, you create space for genuine connection. When you let go of games, you make room for growth. Selves. That's how masculine energy works. It doesn't chase, it creates. And here's the thing, selves. The people who once took you for granted will feel your absence louder than they ever felt your presence. Because when you're gone, selves, they'll realize your energy was the foundation of everything. But by then, you'll be too focused on your path to look back. Selves. That's not revenge, it's evolution. Walking away is the moment you stop being reactive and start being intentional. Selves. It's the moment you stop seeking validation and start building value. So when you feel disrespected, when your efforts go unnoticed, selves, when your peace is being disturbed, walk away. Don't shout, don't explain, don't beg, just leave. Let your silence be the lesson. Selves. Let your distance be the boundary, because every time you walk away from what's not for you, you walk closer to what is. Remember this, selves. A man's power is not in how loud he can be, but in how calmly he can let go. You don't need to fight for what's meant for you. Selves. You don't need to prove your worth to people who can't see it. The moment you walk away from disrespect, you teach the world that your energy is sacred. And that lesson, spoken through silence, is what separates boys who chase from men who rise. When you walk away, everything changes, the energy shifts. Selves, the power dynamics flip. The same people who once ignored you suddenly notice your absence. Selves, the same people who dismissed your effort begin to question what happened. Selves, because silence has a way of making people hear what they refused to listen to before. When a man stops chasing and starts focusing, the whole world feels it. Selves, his energy becomes different, calmer, more grounded, more magnetic. He no longer moves from desperation, but from discipline. He no longer seeks validation themselves because he's found peace within himself. The moment you stop chasing, something incredible happens. You start attracting, not because you're trying to selves, but because you've realigned your energy. People are naturally drawn to confidence, to calmness, to a man who isn't trying to prove anything. Selves, that's what true masculine energy feels like. Quiet strength, not loud insecurity. When you stop trying to convince anyone to see your worth, your value multiplies. You become rare in a world full of men begging for attention. You stand out simply by not trying so hard. See, selves chasing always comes from fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. But when you master those fears, you no longer chase, you choose selves. You choose who gets your energy. You choose what deserves your time. You choose peace over pressure. That's when your life starts to align. Selves. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You begin to notice how much energy you used to waste trying to fix people who never wanted to be fixed. Selves. Trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Once you stop doing that, your focus sharpens, your drive returns. Selves, you rediscover your purpose. And here's the irony: the moment you stop caring whether someone stays or leaves, they start caring more than ever. Selves, because detachment is power, it's not indifference, it's self-control. Selves, it's understanding that you don't need to hold on to anything that requires you to betray your peace. When a man truly understands this, he becomes unstoppable. He stops chasing love and starts chasing purpose. He channels his energy into building something that can't be taken away, his discipline, his vision, his character. You see, selves, masculine energy doesn't chase because it knows its worth. It's not arrogant, it's aware. Selves, it doesn't need to prove its strength because it already knows what it brings to the table. Selves, a man grounded in his power doesn't need to chase validation from anyone. He creates value within himself. Selves, he becomes so focused on his mission that people naturally want to be part of it. He becomes the calm in a world that thrives on chaos. And that calm, selves, that quiet certainty is what draws others in. When you operate from that place of stillness, you attract the right things: peace, purpose, respect, selves, and love that doesn't demand you to lose yourself. You begin to see that everything you chased before was just noise. The validation, the attention, Selves, the approval, it was all temporary. The moment you stopped needing it, you became free. You no longer move from lack, you move from abundance. Selves, you no longer beg to be understood. You understand yourself so deeply that misunderstanding doesn't affect you. And that's what true strength looks like. Selves, it's not in how many people you can impress, it's in how calm you remain when no one is watching. It's in walking your path with quiet confidence. Selves, even when no one applauds. Because real men don't chase attention, they attract it through their actions. Selves, real men don't lose themselves trying to be loved. They love themselves enough to walk away when something doesn't feel right. So understand this. Selves, when you stop chasing, you start winning. You stop operating from fear and start moving with faith. Selves, you stop wasting energy on people who don't see you and start building a life so powerful that they can't ignore you. Selves, that's the essence of masculine energy, presence, purpose, and peace. You don't need to chase what's meant for you. Selves, you just need to become the kind of man who's ready to receive it. And when you do, selves, everything that's right for you will find its way without you having to run after it.